to their screams. Greetings, ghouls and creeps, and welcome to Listen to Their Screams, a horror podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dave, and I'm joined as always by the other host, Ike. Ike, how are you?
You know, I'm good. I'm feeling very Christmas. I'm feeling very festive. Thanksgiving is over.
That's right. Thanksgiving's over. As this episode drops, it is officially December, and that means we're in that holly jolly time of year. And today we're going to discuss Black Christmas from 1974, a Christmas horror film. We got a whole month full of Christmas horror, classic, new. It's going to be fun. I love when you can combine interests, and then and I love Christmas and I love horror, and so when there's some festive slaying going on, I'm happy. So before we dive into everything today, wherever you're out there, make sure you subscribe to us on whatever platform it is, and thank you for listening. And subscribe or follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Letterboxd. You can find us on all those platforms by looking up Listen to Screams. That is Listen, the number 2, and Screams. As always, thank you all for supporting. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for your feedback. And, of course, a special thank you to Monica and Kayla, our two wives, for, putting up with our dumbasses all this time and all their support and research and ideals. And you know what? I talk a lot right at home. I'm not an outgoing person in public and with other people, but when I'm at home, right, I'm always making noise and talking some shit, and weird stuff pops in my head, and I've got 50 million interests, and my wife must be on the verge of sainthood to listen to some of the shit that I ramble about sometimes. There are times when even I think, what the fuck am I even talking about anymore? But yes,
No, I'm the same way.
and I never get any shit about it. I think that's a sign of true love. Is
Right.
I'm allowed to spew my gospel by weird ass shit, and then I don't get grief for it. So, well, anyway, thanks to them for that and for everything else. And as always, we will issue a spoiler warning. This is a movie podcast, a movie review podcast, and we do discuss movies, and we try not to give away the whole ball of wax. But in the course of discussions, of course, things will be revealed, especially when we have a movie that from 1974. I'm not too worried about that. I think the statute of limitations has run out on that one. So Ike, besides Black Christmas, what'd you watch this week? Anything good?
Oh yeah, honestly, well, first and foremost, I'm going to be real with you. I honestly did not watch any movies. I've been watching a lot of TV shows. Still watching Criminal Minds. Again, not horror, but I would consider it horror adjacent sometimes. But more importantly, I finally caught up on The Walking Dead. I finished the last season of
Yeah.
The Walking Dead, so I've spent most of my time doing that. Those are some long ass episodes.
Yeah, so you got all the way through to the series finale and everything?
Yep, I finished the whole series finale. Obviously, I haven't finished Fear or Worlds Beyond,
Yeah,
but
me neither.
yeah.
Yeah, we won't give away much here because that's still pretty new, pretty fresh, and there might be some people out there that haven't seen it, but man, there's all sorts of emotions there at the end, isn't there?
Honestly, a lot of people complained about, like online, they complained about the finale, like how it all ended. And honestly, I gotta say, as far as like finales go, I was relatively happy with how that turned out. Really,
Yeah. I
you
mean,
know,
what was going to happen? What did they think was going to happen? They knew
yeah,
there was some other spin-off shows that wasn't going to like wrap everything up. I mean, I liked it. I enjoyed it. There were tears, there were gut-wrenching moments, there was some, I don't want to say shocks, but there were some, pleasant surprise type things. There was, some things that were wrapped up nicely, and makes me excited about the spin-off shows and everything else. I don't know. I was pleased. I mean, it's man, I don't know. I've dabbled in not like TV writing, but I've dabbled in a little writing in my day. I gotta think finales and endings are hard.
yeah.
I mean, I don't, you're never going to appease everybody anyway. But anyway, so is that it then? That's you said that just that mainly the Criminal Minds of Walking Dead.
Yep, still catching up with Criminal Minds, and I finally finished Walking Dead. I think that's my major accomplishments this week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the holiday and everything and a little travel where we got, I mean, I didn't get to watch a whole lot. I did watch on Thanksgiving, while I was staying out of the way of the kitchen and all the activities. I did watch Pilgrim on Hulu that we spoke of last episode. And I quite enjoyed it. It was fun.
Yeah.
Something fun to watch on Thanksgiving. And then besides that, really all I've watched, I did watch the first 3 episodes of the new Netflix series Wednesday, based on Wednesday Addams, spinning out the Addams family. And
Oh, very cool.
man, I'm hooked. It is fun. It is good. I like it. I'm not a huge Addams family guy. I mean, I like it. It's okay, but I was more of a Munsters guy. But this, man, this is good. I mean, and if I know there maybe there's people out there that have trepidation, thinking, the Addams family is kind of goofy. I don't, man, this is not goofy. This is nothing like that. Well, this is what I've not read a lot or seen a lot of the original Addams family. The comics and things, that comic strips and things that this spun out of. But I think this is a little bit more true to that kind of darker, grittier thing. It's very cool. I very much like it. Like I said, I think I don't know what there is. 8 episodes, 10 episodes. I'm not even sure. But
Yeah.
I've seen 3.
Yeah, I've not watched it yet, but I am gonna watch it soon. I've heard good things about it.
Oh, it's great. I love it. And it's everything. It's great. Acting's great. Scenes are great. Setting's great. It's kind of like I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of like Addams Family meets Harry Potter. When you watch some of it, you'll see what I'm saying. It's
Harry Potter.
it's good. I'm like it. But you know what else is good? Games. I like games, and I like lists. So that's why we play every episode the top 3. Top 3. And this time on top 3, we are going to talk about our top 3 favorite zombie movies. Not movies, zombie movies. It's very, very important that. I know when we brought this up, you had to you seek some clarification from me. Are we talking about zombies in movies or movies about zombies? So it's very important that our top 3 favorite zombie movies is what we're going to do. And the key word when we play top 3 is favorite, right? We don't think these are the best per se. Even we don't think that maybe whatever. This is just our favorite. What we enjoy, what I like. If we throw in a movie, these are them. So, Ike, are you ready to play top 3?
I think I am.
All right. I don't know. I try to go back and forth with who starts. I don't know. I lose track. But why don't you start? What's your number 3 favorite zombie movie?
Absolutely. My number 3, and this one might be a little out there. It is the Return of the Living Dead 2 from 1988.
You went a little deep with that one.
Yeah. This one's a little bit of a deep cut. So Return of the Living Dead. It was, so for people who don't know, Night of the Living Dead was George Romero's masterpiece from 1968. But George Romero and the other guy, who I can always never remember his name, they had different ideas of how zombie movies should be. So they went in 2 different directions. One of them went on to make George Romero's classics, the Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, so on and so forth. And then the other guy went on to make Return of the Living Dead, right? So one of the biggest differences is that in the Return of the Living Dead movies, they eat brains. They don't eat flesh like they do in the Of the Dead series. So Return of the Living Dead 2 is one of the ones that I watched when I was a kid. Like, I was really young when I watched this, probably 12, 13 probably. And I just have a very, very distinct memory of this movie. It's very goofy. It's very cheesy, but I love it. It's one of those ones that I'll put on. If you want to watch it, you have to buy it on Prime Review, Vudu.
It's funny to me because I'm sure there were other things, right? I'm sure there are other things that caused this split between these two, right?
Right.
And their differences of opinion. But it's only people that are truly geeks about things and very passionate about things, as I am an example of for many, many things, can truly relate to the fact that there's a split between 2 people based on whether a zombie eats flesh or brains.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've subscribed to the flesh theory personally, but I
Me
don't
too.
hate on the brains. I don't hate on the brains.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, my number 3 is kind of in that other vein. Then I'm taking the other road because my number 3 is from 1978, Dawn of the Dead, which you mentioned. So I'm going the Romero path there. This to me is this is prime Romero. I love Night of the Living Dead. Don't get me wrong; it's classic for what it is, right? And especially the importance in movie. But man, Dawn of the Dead is amazing, right? The movie's great. It's got everything. It's a statement on commercialism. That is one of my top movie filming sites that I want to visit is that mall and everything else. So yeah, that's my number 3. While you went with the one path with the brain path, I went with the flesh path and with Dawn of the Dead from 1978. So that
Absolutely.
brings us to number 2. Ike, what is your number 2 favorite zombie movie?
So I want to say I love George Romero. I love Dawn of the Dead. I would so like this was hard for me because I love Dawn of the Dead. I was gonna put Dawn of the Dead as my number 2, but I have a very special place in my heart for Day of the Dead from 1985. Um, so I love George Romero. I love Dawn of the Dead so freaking much, but I love Day of the Dead too. It's like Day of the Dead has this kind of weird, like, um, I would say it's kind of ethereal in a way. It's kind of like this weird, like, cabin fever where these guys are like, hey, there's literally nobody left. It's just us in this bunker, and they're just trying to make do. They're trying to survive, and and Day of the Dead has been remade a few times, but the original from the 80s is just so good. I love it. I love the gore. It's very creative. I think there's a scene in Day of the Dead that I always go back to. It was the zombie's laying on the table. He's cut open, and they're trying to do tests on him, but he stands up and all of his guts fall out.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, oh, I love it.
yeah. That is a good one. That was actually Day of the Dead was actually on my short list. Did not make my top 3 though. My my I went slightly different paths with my top 2. I don't know. I'm not saying these are like what do I want to say? I don't say these are controversial choices, but
Right.
my top 2 are very personal favorites of mine. And starting with my number 2 from 1985, Reanimator. I
Oh yeah.
absolutely fucking love Reanimator. I watch Reanimator. I bet I watch Reanimator 5 or 6 times a year. Love it. I love H.P. Lovecraft, and I think this is. I know this is. I wouldn't say it's a like a true telling of the H.P. Lovecraft stories, but I love Jeffrey Combs playing Herbert West in it. Um, I love this movie. I love I love the reanimations in it. I love the day glow, whatever you want to call it, substance that he makes to bring them back. Um, I love this movie. It's cheesy. It is so 80s. It is a personal favorite movie of mine that I put on all the time and watch. So my number 2 favorite zombie movie is Reanimator. I assume you've seen Reanimator, right?
You know what? I have actually never seen Reanimator. I
Oh, you're
I know
lucky.
that you love it, and
You're,
I really need to watch it.
you're lucky. I don't just end the call now. And just yes, you have to watch Reanimator. That is your mission. Then sometime over the next few weeks is just watch. I mean, at some point, I feel like we got to review it because I love it so much. But yeah, you got to watch Reanimator. Oh my god. I mean, there's a Reanimator too. It's pretty. It's all right too. It's not bad. I think it's called. Well, I think there's a Bride of Reanimator. There's all that kinds of things. But the first one is I love it. So that brings us to our number 1s, Ike. So what is your number 1 favorite zombie movie?
Oh Lord. So my number 1, and I really went back and forth on this. There's a lot of honorable mentions that I could just start rambling off. Like there's so many good zombie movies. I would say zombie movies in general is one of my favorite genres. So I've seen a lot of them. But my number 1 is Train to Busan from 2016. Um,
Oh,
Train to Busan, it was one of those movies that I had no concessions going into it. I knew it was a Korean film. I knew it was, it was going to be a subtitled film. I've watched it both subtitled and dubbed. They're both good. I like the subtitles better, just because you get to hear the actors' actual voices and their actual emotions. But yeah, so Train to Busan, for people who don't know, is it's a Korean zombie film from 2016. We were actually us Americans, us settlers, are actually making a version of it ourselves, which should be coming out in the next year or two. But it, so much emotion in Train to Busan. This was one of those movies I watched, and like by the end of it, like I have tears in my eyes. I'm like, this was a horror movie, and it was so terrifying because of how hopeless things felt. But like at the same time, it tugs at your heartstrings, and it tugs at just all of that like thought process of what would happen if the zombie outbreak just suddenly happened. So super good. Train to Busan, 100% recommend it. You can pretty much watch it anywhere for free.
Well, see if I guess if you have the assignment to watch Reanimator, excuse me, then I have the assignment to watch that because I've never seen that either. So there we go.
Gotta do it.
We'll have to watch each other's zombie movies over the next few weeks. My number one, and I think anybody that knows me will probably not be shocked by this, although it may not be one that pops to mind. My number one favorite zombie movie of all time is the horror comedy Shaun of the Dead from 2004.
Oh yeah.
I love the what do they call it, the Cornetto trilogy or whatever. I love with Simon Pegg and Nick Castle and all, or not Nick Castle, Nick Frost. Nick Castle's Michael Myers, but but Shaun of the Dead to me is the epitome. It is the epitome of their horror comedy. I've always been disappointed by the fact that there was a proposed sequel that was going to dive into, what was it, werewolves or something, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they were going to call it. They had a trick, kind of a catchy name like Shaun of the Dead for it too, and I can't remember what it was now. Anyway, but I love Shaun of the Dead. I love that it pays so much tribute to George Romero and the way it does. I love the comedy of Pegg and Frost, and I just like these two guys, being so, I don't know, so comedic and matter of fact in the midst of this outbreak and what's going on. So that is my number one favorite zombie movie, Shaun of the Dead. So again,
man.
we'd love to hear what you as the listeners, what you like. So hit us up on the social medias and let us know what your favorite zombie movie is, and you tell us whether you agree, disagree, whether we're geniuses or dumbasses, whatever you think. That's okay. It's just an opinion. So let's take a brief break, and when we come back, we'll talk about news and upcoming releases. Listen to Their Screams is now a Fangoria collaborator. Get 20% off your order at shop.fangoria.com by using the promo code LISTEN2SCREAMS at checkout. That is listen, the number 2, and screams. Or you can click the link in the show notes. Okay, now let's discuss a few news items that we think you, the listener, should hear about. There's a convention coming up December 17th and 18th called TerrorFest 2022. It is held at the Lone Star Convention and Expo Center in Conroy, Texas. Excuse me. It's the inaugural convention produced by Silverback Events. It includes a Battle of the Bands, costume contest, selfie stations, escape rooms, haunted house, celebrity signings, gaming rooms, special effects workshops, macabre artists, vendors, and much more. If you love Christmas, you love horror and terrifying stuff, you don't want to miss this event. I love the fact that this time of year it seems like everything's at the other end of the country for me, and there's no chance that I'm going to get to go see any of these things. But anyway, talking some merchandise news, there is this has been I've seen this all over social media. They must have, I don't know how much they have sunk into ad revenue on social media apps, but I have seen this everywhere. Pre-orders are now open for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre board game at trickortreatstudios.com. It's $59.95 US dollars. It's estimated to ship beginning in March 2023. It's based on the original 1974 film, and the gist of the game is the player's van is run out of gas, leaving them stranded and at the mercy of the Slaughter family. Work together and push your luck to escape. It's a cooperative game where all players win or lose as a group. You pull tokens from a gruesome bag. You take actions, but you be careful. Pulling too many may antagonize the Slaughter family. Sounds fun. I like board games. I like themed board games, and I'm very curious to play a game based on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I may have to get that and check it out. When it is actually released. Some birthdays.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good. I was just saying, it sounds like fun. You don't see a whole lot of, I would say, horror board games, so I'm down.
No, I have a board game called Horrified that's based on the Universal monsters, and I attempted to play it one time, and man, it is super complicated. And I'm just like, I just gave up. I mean, we were like, forget it, because it's one of those things. It's like, I don't know, it's not cut and dry, right? Like there's like, if this, then this, and blah blah. I mean, it's so many. I don't know. It's just like, hey, board games, man. You should be able to get half drunk and play them, and to still be able to get through it. I don't know, but I think I'd give a shot to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. Sounds like my kind of thing. So some birthdays coming up on December 4th. Tony Todd has a birthday. Of course, Tony Todd, most known for Candyman. Then Amy Acker has a birthday on December 5th. She was in the TV shows Angel and Supernatural. And Summerhalder has a birthday on December 7th, known for Vampire Diaries and V Wars. And then some upcoming releases. And as we enter the Christmas season, if you're looking for some shows that kind of have a little bit of horror, spooky vibe, that maybe dabble in the Christmas, maybe check out season 3, episode 10 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The episode's called Amends, and it's a pretty good Christmas horror rewatch. It's a Christmas Carol type story surrounding Angel, who's the dreamy looking vampire that has a soul that Buffy's madly in love with, and the torment of his past versus his present and future. You can watch it for free on the Roku channel and on Hulu with a subscription. And coming up streaming on December 1st, that is the day this episode drops, there's a movie called Troll coming to Netflix. It is a movie with subtitles. It is deep in the Dover Mountain in Norway. Something gigantic wakes up after 1,000 years in captivity. The creature destroys everything in its path and quickly approaches Oslo. Ike, before we recorded it today, I watched the trailer of this. Man, it looks pretty good. It's like it's a creature movie essentially. It's a gigantic ass troll. You know what? I'm not a big movie with subtitles kind of guy, but I might give this one a shot. Like, have you heard anything about Troll?
So I've not heard anything about this movie specifically, but I have heard of a similar-esque movie called Troll Hunter, which has a very similar synopsis, but it's from 12 years ago. It's a foreign language film. But no, I mean, I think I'd watch this. I mean, I like kind of the creature feature, and I think I've said it before on here. We don't see a whole lot of creature features in this day and age, so I definitely will give it some action because I want to see more.
Yeah, it looked pretty good from the trailer. The troll looks pretty good, and it had me kind of chuckling because there was like a footprint or something or other that they encountered, and one guy asked something about what is that, what could have made that or whatever, and the one guy chuckled and said King Kong. So I don't know, there was something I found funny about that. I don't know why. But then coming out in theaters on December 2nd nationwide, Violent Night. When a group of mercenaries attack the estate of a wealthy family, Santa Claus must step in to save the day and Christmas. It's starring David Harbour from Stranger Things, Beverly D'Angelo from the Vacation movies, John, see if I can get his name right here, John Leguizamo, right? That's how you say it, isn't it?
Yep, John Leguizamo.
I always struggle over his name, who's been in many, many things. And we plan to try to watch this. Go watch this and review this next week. I actually watched the trailer for this too. Man, it looks pretty. It looks pretty fun. Like I said, these guys they're trying to rob this family. Apparently, it's a very wealthy family, and the robbery occurs as Santa has appeared in the home to leave his gifts, and he's kind of stuck there, and he has to get a little violent and save the day. Ike, have you heard much about Violent Night?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually watched the trailer for this a couple of times. I recently, I wouldn't say recently, but when I went and saw, I'm trying to figure out, I remember whatever movie it was I watched last. It was either Terrifier 2 or one of the other movies I've seen. But anyways, I saw a trailer in theaters for it, and honestly, it looked really good. I was chuckling, so I'm like, 'cause first of all, I love David Harbour, but I was chuckling because I was like, who thinks of this stuff? Who's like, you know what, Santa's real, and he pops in on a robbery, and he's just about to fuck somebody up. Like, I love it.
Yeah, I love. There's a part in the trailer where he's eating the candy cane, and it's like into the sharp point, and he uses it as a weapon. Because I think every kid ever that has eaten a candy cane and got that point at the end has always thought, man, this would be a weapon. So that's pretty neat. Like I said, we plan to try to go watch that so that we can review that next week as one of our movies here on the show. And some other Christmas horror, if you're looking to watch, there's a movie called The Children from 2008 that's available for free to watch on the Roku channel, and it's also on Tubi, Vudu, and Plex. And it says a relaxing Christmas vacation turns into a terrifying fight for survival as the children begin to turn on their parents. I'm telling you what, scary children are the creepiest thing in the world. And but every episode we'll drop a few little kind of outside the norm Christmas horror spooky things to watch. I've never heard of the movie The Children. Ike, you ever heard of it?
I've never heard of it, but the synopsis sounds familiar. I feel like I've heard that somewhere. So I'm sure I've seen it. I've not seen the movie, but I'm sure I've seen it like scrolling through some Tubi or whatever.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, we always say cute is creepy,
Yep.
and that can apply to kids as well. Kids can be little devils. But let's take a quick break, catch our breath, and we'll come back with our review of Black Christmas from 1974.
Silent night, evil night. Starring Olivia Hussey. Keir Delay. Margot Kidder. John Saxon. If this movie doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight. Silent Night, Evil Night, rated R.
Okay, and let's talk Black Christmas. If you'd like to watch it, and I highly advise you do, it is available for free on the Roku channel. It's also on Tubi. It can be purchased on Vudu, and it is on Peacock with a subscription. It's during their Christmas break, a group of sorority sisters are stalked by a stranger. It stars Margot Kidder, who was in Amityville Horror and, of course, played Lois Lane in Superman. John Saxon, who was in Nightmare on Elm Street. He played Nancy's dad. Olivia Hussey, who was in Psycho 4 as Norma Bates, and she was in It. The movie was originally not well received, but it has gained a huge cult following as horror kind of progressed and developed. Because this is pretty early in kind of the slasher film genre. Many believe it is a classic, and fans and critics seem to like it a little more than when it was first released. It is a kind of one of the first seasonal slasher movies, but Christmas has been a theme in horror movies and scary movies many times. Let's have a little discussion here about this. A Christmas Carol is sometimes considered to be kind of spooky, horror-esque by many. Of course, there's ghosts in visiting, and there's an adaptation going back to 1921 where the ghost visiting Bob Marley are a little more scary and introspective. Ike, what do you think of that? Because I know I have seen some versions of A Christmas Carol when I was a kid that did kind of creep me out and spook me if the ghosts were scary enough. So I can see how a lot of literature. I mean, I've read Christmas Carol too. How a lot of literature was a little darker, and then it was kind of adapted and softened up over the years. But I don't know if I quantify it as horror straight up. But I mean, I think it's kind of the same vein as how we discussed about Wizard of Oz, and even some of the old Universal movies and monster movies that. Certain takes on Christmas Carol, yeah, I could see how it could be considered kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, primitive horror type movie. What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that, so I'll be completely honest. When I first read like the Christmas Carol, like the book, you kind of do get, I would say, like a little bit of a weird vibe from it, especially when you read like some of the more like original versions of it versus some of the more like, not to say watered down, but some of the more watered down stuff. But when you read that original version, it does sort of come across maybe a little more spooky, right? I've not really watched any old versions of it, like the film adaptations. I've obviously watched like the Jim Carrey animated one. I've watched a dozen different versions of like the Christmas Carol, story and whatnot. But yeah, no, I would definitely say when you read the original book, it does kind of come across that way, especially if given the right context. But I could definitely see where you're coming from. Like you said, we even kind of talked about how these monster movies aren't very scary today, but given the time in which they were released, it's probably a little spooky. But no, yeah, I think if I watched the original Christmas Carol from, what did you say, 1921, it'd probably be a little weird looking.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is this: every time I put it out there, and I online or a Twitter poll or whatever, there's so many people that really, I don't know, get a little standoffish, right? When we like with the Wizard of Oz discussion, like, oh, that's definitely not horror. There's nothing horror, and I'm like, you have to take it with context, though, right? Yes, compared to Terrifier 2, yeah, it's not really horror, right? It's not that kind of movie. But take into context what we're talking. I mean, the Christmas Carol I think was written in the late 1800s. At that time, when there were just ghost stories and things like that, yeah, it's spooky. It's a ghost story. By that account, it's quote unquote horror, right? It's not what we think of horror now, but it's kind of where it started, right? That's what these, you know, all the creatures and most of the creations that we see in horror, a lot of them have just spun out of old, you know, folk tales and urban legends and campfire stories and things like that. And they've grown and evolved over years. And so I think there's definite roots there for Christmas Carol to be considered horror, you know, in context with the times it was written and made. But Black Christmas was one of the first that gave the audience the killer point of view in filming. Peeping Tom from 1960 is credited as being the first to do it. And we'll discuss here more in a minute when we discuss what we personally thought about it. But it definitely got that. You definitely got a lot in several of these scenes that what you would later see, like in the 1978 Halloween, that, you know, seeing it from the point of view of the killer.
Right.
The story is loosely based on Canadian serial killer Wayne Bowden. The original title was proposed to be Silent Night, Evil Night, which I'm sure there's been half a dozen movies made with that title since then. There was recently a book published called It's Me, Billy, The Black Christmas Revisited. It's a nonfiction book about the movie and filming. And I do believe, and I don't have a lot of details, but I do believe if you go on YouTube, there are some fan-made sequels to the original film that kind of keep in line with it. And from what I've heard, they're pretty good. But before we really dive into the movie, like, let's talk a little more about just Christmas horror movies in general, since we're going to be talking about these a lot this month. There's a movie called Who Slew Auntie Roo. It's often considered the first horror Christmas movie. It was produced in the UK and released in 1971. Utilizing elements of Hansel and Gretel, Auntie Roo featured a witchy Shelley Winters, and while taking place during a Christmas party, the film is more about our fear of elderly women than of the holiday season. Again, let's quote it again. Cute is creepy, and right, old women sometimes are awful cute, but they are some of the best horror protagonists that I've ever seen in a shows and movies. Is when you have this cute old woman who you think so harmless, and then she's really, really evil. I have never seen Who Slew Auntie Roo. That's just a fun thing to say. Any chance you've seen that or heard much about it?
Absolutely not. I've never Who Slew Auntie Roo? Good Lord Jesus. Okay. No, I've never heard of that. That's just, who comes up with these names?
I don't know. Who Slew Auntie Roo is almost right up there with as fun to say as Gobble Gobble Motherfucker. That might be the December version of that.
Right.
But anyway, and then the movie Tales from the Crypt from 1972 is credited as being the first horror movie to depict the killer in a Santa suit. And yes, for those of you who are thinking, it is that Tales from the Crypt, right? This was a British anthology film made in 1972 that I have seen. It's been a while, but I have seen this. That had, I think it was five little, you know, bits or whatever you want to call segments based on some of the old EC comics. And in one of them, there was a Christmas-based one where the killer is dressed up as Santa. So that's often considered the first horror movie to depict Santa, killer in a Santa suit. And then Silent Night, Bloody Night from 1972 is often credited as the first theatrical horror movie that was made and released in the U.S. So that beat Black Christmas out by a couple of years. So there's a little background on Christmas horror movies. Ike, now let's talk about Black Christmas in general. What did you think of Black Christmas from 1974?
You know, so when I watched it, like, okay, so let me preface by saying that this is not the only Black Christmas. There are three of these. There's this one, which is from the 70s. There was one from the early 2000s that has like Mary Elizabeth Winstead in it, who plays what is her name, Ramona Flowers from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Yes.
But then you also have the one that I have seen, which is Black Christmas from like 2019, I think.
Yes.
Which, so just as a comparison, the 70s version versus the 2019 version, they're not even the same.
No.
Like, it's so weird. So I went into this, I tried to like block out the 2019 version, but I'm thinking to myself, I probably would have preferred like a more true to form remake because I love slasher content, right? Because obviously, you know, Black Christmas is a slasher-esque movie.
Yeah.
It's in that ballpark. It's in that field. I love slasher. So definitely going into this, I was like, okay, I'm assuming this is a slasher movie, unless it's going to be more like the remake. I don't know. But 100%, I did enjoy it. It was it was definitely one of those movies where I've never seen it before. It's from the 70s. You have to go into it with, your expectations managed because, 70s horror movies have a very particular taste, if you will, and it's an acquired taste. So, went into it, expectations managed, and I enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoyed it. It was a fun little slasher fest. I kind of figured out who the killer was, I would say, immediately after a very bad session of playing the piano. Um, I pretty much immediately knew who the killer was. But other than a little bit of predictability, I think that the movie did a pretty good
Oh,
job.
ho ho ho, hey ho. So did you not watch all the way up through to the credits and everything?
Well, yeah, I watched the credits and there's like somebody else in the house.
That yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so Peter is not the killer.
really.
It is not the piano guy. See, that is what they lead you to believe. And she killed him thinking he was, but there is somebody still in the attic. And
Okay.
as it pans out and the credits start to roll, the phone rings again. So the killer is actually someone named Billy, and it is the Billy that he speaks of. The thing is about this movie, and this might actually even change your context a little bit of it. The movie never really explains who Billy is. Never explains why he's a killer, what he's doing there, why he's targeting these people. They mention Billy and Agnes or whatever in the movie.
Yeah.
They don't explain who the hell Agnes is or what this all is. It's very odd how it doesn't do that, and it leaves it all hanging, and it's definite. But in the end, you see that she's laying there, she's sedated and everything, and everybody leaves except for like one officer and everything else. And yes, you see though that yeah, he's still in the attic. The killer is still in the attic, and that the Peter guy, the boyfriend, piano player guy, is not actually the killer. That's what they want you to believe or whatever. But they pull the little twist right at the very end as the credits are going. And yeah, they throw that loop in there, and,
Huh.
and I don't know the objective behind that or what that was meant to be, and why. Like I said, it just leaves it very open ended. Again, in this day and age, and if this movie were released and did this, it would get ripped apart because people do not like it that open ended, right?
Right.
And it makes you feel that I don't know if they were hoping to do a sequel that would dive more into it. I don't know. But it is that part of it's very odd. And as the story goes, yes, the Peter was the logical choice, and that's what they wanted you to think that had happened. But no, he's not actually the killer. And
Huh.
I only know this because I've read a little bit of it and I've seen the movie multiple times. When you first watch it, yeah, if you're not watching, you may not even catch that. So, um,
Yeah, now that you say that, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, well, I guess that, like you said, that just creates more questions because I mean, don't get me wrong, I still enjoyed it, but now I'm thinking to myself, so you just killed this dude who, I mean, I thought he was the killer the whole time, but
I did too. Yeah.
but you're right, because at the end, and that phone started ringing, I wondered if that was like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Maybe I just wasn't watching it close enough because I was thinking to myself, oh, it's just part of the credits or something. But no, I mean, the phone's still ringing and the guy's still there. So obviously that means that because I didn't find the two bodies in the attic, which was like
No, no,
that.
they're still there. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm,
I mean, yeah, like I said, it's a little peculiar. And again, I mean, being in 1974, they did not feel like they had to wrap everything up in a nice little package, I'm assuming. And they just wanted you to, I guess, have that last little final gasp of, oh gosh, they didn't really get the killer. He's still there. Oh no, and everything. But yeah, it was a little. And again, it's a little odd, a little peculiar, leaves a lot of questions in the air. It doesn't take away from the fact that it is a pretty, it's a fairly enjoyable movie to watch. It's pretty fun. I'm a sucker for cheesy kind of slasher movies like this that don't have to make a lot of sense, right? I mean, this is a lot of open-ended questions. I get that, but I'm a fan of movies like this. These are fun watches for me. These are movies that I don't go into it thinking, oh, all right, I got to sit there and think deep, right? And I got to really pay attention. It's the kind of movie that you just want to sit there and you just enjoy, right? You kind of get lost in for a bit, and and this again, the kills aren't super dramatic or whatever else, but it was 1974. There was only so much they could do, and there was definitely some dated stuff in the movie that was kind of makes you chuckle a little bit. The I'm not sure what the term is for her, but the lady that was living with them, that was kind of their house mom or whatever you want to call her, was
Right.
a raging alcoholic. She had sherry hid everywhere. I mean, in the toilet bowl and everywhere else. And but she was a nice lady and was very good to the girls there, I guess. Um, and the one dad whose daughter was missing was kind of aghast at everything going on in this sorority house. I don't know what he thought a sorority house in the 70s. When you put college aged kids away from home for the first time, what he thought was going to happen. But there was some art and some things, and and the sorority moms kind of had a vulgar mouth, and so he was a little taken aback by all this stuff. But
Yeah, I was gonna say it definitely played into a lot of those like tropes of like I would just say just 70s movies in general,
yeah,
because you kind of have to think that in the 70s that was like reeling off of the 60s and peace and love for everybody type stuff. So you had those people who were returning from, because that's also post-war. So I think it definitely played into like the time period 100%.
yeah.
But no, I did notice that too, though. He was very much, oh, clutch my pearls, what's going on?
Yeah, it was a little much at times or whatever, but then I kind of I enjoyed the bumbling desk sergeant, who was kind of the guy that kind of unraveled everything there at the end, with by being specifically told, don't tell her the calls from in the house, and he finally did, thinking it was his own. Now, granted, he did it thinking it was his only way to keep her from leaving the house, or
Right.
from not staying in the house, whatever it might be, because she was going to go find her friend. Um, but he was kind of a doof. But John Saxon was great in it. He's good in everything that he's in. I very much enjoyed him. But like I said, it was a fun movie. It's one of those movies that would be fun to watch, every year, around Christmas. You did mention that there were 2 remakes. We did have a Twitter poll up based on the 3 films. Which was your favorite version? And overwhelmingly, the 1974 version won with 74%. And then the 2006 version had 16%, and the 2019 had 10. So overwhelmingly, our Twitter followers, at least, are preferred the 1974 version. A lot of that might be that maybe it was the first one they saw, and that, like you said, the other 2 don't really stick to the plan here of the first one. And
Yeah, I was gonna say the newer one, the 2019 one, it has like a whole like supernatural thing to it. Obviously I'm not, no spoilers, but just know if you watch it's nothing like the originals. But from what I can tell, and I've not watched the 2004 version, that one looks a little bit more true to form. It's more slasher than supernatural, but
yeah,
the newer one's more supernatural than slasher.
yeah, I do think there was something a little refreshing almost about seeing a slasher type movie with a serial killer type in it, who was pretty much just straight up a serial killer, right?
Yeah.
Just a person, not masked, no supernatural, no. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love all that. That is absolutely in my wheelhouse. But there is something, sometimes just humans alone are creepy enough and evil enough. And so, like I said, and that kind of did play into the fact that they didn't give a backstory on this Billy. They didn't give, why he did it or everything else. Now, I do think it would have been a lot of fun had they had the chance to do another that maybe did explore why. Did he have a tie to that house, that building, maybe something to that effect? And I'm not saying, again, nope, not over the top, but just giving some basis, because even the most evil of humans that are serial killers, there's still usually there's usually some triggers there, right? There's
Right.
something. And so maybe, like I said, it might have been fun if they had gotten to do another. And again, there are some fan films out there that I think dive into that, explore it. Um, but overall, like I said, it was a fun movie. I like Margot Kidder because she'll always be Lois Lane to me. Always, always, always. She was in the Christopher Reeves Superman movies, and every time I see her, that's what I envision. But she was a feisty one in this one, right? She she liked to drink a lot. She liked to cuss a lot. She was giving it right back to the moaner on the phone, which was supposed to be Billy, same guy. That's the thing. The reason he knew all this about the abortion that the girl was going to have and everything going on is because he was in the house, right, overhearing all this and everything. So, but again, it was a fun movie. So, Ike, out of 5 screams, what would you give Black Christmas from 1974?
Oh Lord, I think this is going to be one of those middle of the road ones. Nothing spectacular, nothing super crazy, nothing super bad. So I'm just going to give it a solid 3 streams out of 5.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to give it 3. I thought about dropping it down to maybe 2.5, just because it left so much open ended. But then I thought, you know what, is that just me thinking with my mind now of how movies have to tell everything, or if we don't tell it in the movie, then someone's got to write a book or something to explain it all. In 1974, again, I just don't think that was necessary, right? They didn't care
Right.
that much, and you didn't always have to do it. So, but I enjoyed it, right? I had fun watching it. So I'm also going to give it a 3 screams out of 5. So if you're out there and you want to watch some Christmas holiday viewing, I would put this on the list. I think this is a fun one to watch. And like I said, the next episode, we're going to talk, we're going to hopefully just review Violent Night, the new movie coming out on December 2nd. And we're also going to review Silent Night, Deadly Night from 1984, another classic Christmas slasher that I'm looking forward. I don't believe I've ever seen this one. If I have, it's been a while. So I'm very much looking forward to diving into that, another cheesy classic Christmas slasher movie.
Yeah, I've never seen that either, so I am excited for it. And actually, I just pulled it up, and in Silent Night, Deadly Night, the synopsis says, "Little Billy, damn it, what's up with everybody being named Billy?"
I don't. Apparently, I guess they just went with the common. Is that supposed to be an innocent sounding name, right? Billy. I don't know. I don't know.
I guess we're gonna find out, right?
Perhaps there was a sequel to Black Christmas. We just didn't realize it, right? Maybe this is the same guy.
Yeah, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Y'all didn't know that? No, I'm kidding.
We'll see. I believe, doesn't it say something about? Read that. Read the synopsis of it.
Yeah. So this is from IMDb, folks. So little Billy witnesses his parents getting killed by Santa after being warned by his senile grandpa that Santa punishes those who are naughty. Now Billy is 18 and out of the orphanage, and he has just become Santa himself.
I like everything about that. That sounds, grumpy grandpas, and then are trying to scare children, and Santa's killing parents, and then the avenging kid. Oh, I like everything about this. There's traumatized children that grew up to be serial killers, and slasher movies are fun. So I'm looking forward to that. Maybe there won't be so many open-ended questions with this little Billy.
One can hope. One can hope.
So again, we will review that movie next week, and then hopefully, like we said, Violent Night as well. So Ike, before we get out of here, anything else you want to say to the listeners or close with?
The only possible thing that I could think to close with, and I think it's very important that I say this to everyone, and it's a question that's for the ages, for as long as time, for as long as all things that can be. Trying to find the name of that movie. Who slew Auntie Roo? That's the question that we'll ask for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, I'm guessing by the course of the other discussion in the other movies that maybe Billy slew Auntie Roo. Maybe not this Billy, maybe not that Billy, but probably a Billy, apparently. Because apparently in Christmas slasher movies, they're all Billies.
All Billies.
Who slew Auntie Roo? That is.
I just checked. There's no Billy in that movie.
Oh, praise the Lord.
Praise somebody, Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah, we spent all of November saying gobble gobble motherfucker, but we're gonna spend all of December with who slew Auntie Roo? Somebody put that on a shirt, because I think I need that one to go with my my gobble gobble shirt that I still think I need to get. So, all right. Well, I think that's all we can get out of this one. I don't think there's any more to be said. So until next episode, thank you for listening. And wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and have many pleasant nightmares.